In today's video, we are on a journey through Marvel's captivating Nomad storyline, born on the pages of Captain America comics. From Steve Rogers' disillusionment with the government to his adoption of the Nomad mantle, explore the intricate layers of identity and patriotism. As we navigate Nomad's comic legacy, including characters like Edward Furble, Jack Monroe, and more, the question arises, could Nomad grace the Marvel Cinematic Universe? With Chris Evans' departure, a Nomad storyline could bridge the gap, offering a fresh perspective on Captain America's legacy. So Nomad is this cool character from Marvel Comics, created back in 1974 by writer Steve Englehart and artist Sal Buscema. Nomad started off as an alternate identity for the original Captain America, Steve Rogers. Later on, writer J.M. DeMatteis brought Nomad back for a minor character named Edward Furble in the early 80s. The most well-known Nomad is Jack Monroe, who got the title in 1983. There are also other characters like Ricky Barnes and Steve Rogers' adopted son Ian Rogers who have taken on the Nomad name. It's like a comic book legacy. In Captain America number 180 in December 1974, our main man Steve Rogers goes through a bit of a crisis. He's rocking the Captain America persona, but then he seriously gets bummed out by the US government. It turns out there's a high-ranking official, hinted to be President Richard Nixon, pulling the strings for a shady group called the Secret Empire. This revelation hits Steve hard, and in response, he ditches the Captain America gig and picks up the Nomad identity. It's like his way of saying, "I'm out, government shenanigans." Alright, buckle up for the Nomad transformation. After Steve Rogers learns about the not-so-cool dealings of the US government, he decides to break up the whole Captain America thing. It's like a superhero breakup, you know? But then, in a showdown with Hawkeye, who's undercover as the Golden Archer, Rogers gets a reality check. He figures out he can't just bail on hero life altogether. So, he takes on the name Nomad, which basically means a dude without a country. He gets this slick new dark blue and yellow suit, no more stars and stripes, keeping it low-key. Now, the Nomad phase doesn't last long, just 4 issues, with a few hiccups like tripping over his own cape. Classic superhero move. In the end, by Captain America number 184, Rogers realizes he doesn't have to ditch being Captain America entirely. He decides he can still stand for America's ideals without blindly following the government. So, back to the Shield he goes. Now, let's shift gears to the MCU and Chris Evans' journey as Captain America. After the epic conclusion in Avengers Endgame, where some of the OG Avengers took their final bows, fans have been buzzing about Chris Evans making a comeback. Avengers Endgame saw Black Widow sacrificing herself, Iron Man making the ultimate sacrifice, and Captain America time-traveling to return the Infinity Stones. Chris Evans decided to bid farewell to the MCU, but the fans kept chanting for his return. Chris Evans kicked off his Marvel journey in Captain America: The First Avenger back in 2011 and became a big player in the MCU. He faced off against the Red Skull, Thanos, and even had a showdown with his fellow Avengers in Captain America: Civil War, which left him labeled as a fugitive alongside Scarlett Johansson's Natasha Romanoff and Anthony Mackie's Sam Wilson. The trio made a comeback in Avengers: Infinity War after a 2-year hiatus from the MCU, but the time away opens up some intriguing untold stories. Now, with calls for Chris Evans' return, it's got fans speculating on what missing tales could be the key to bringing him back into the superhero fold. Here's the scoop. While the buzz about another Steve Rogers movie often revolves around the whole returning the Infinity Stones gig post-Avengers Endgame, there's a more fascinating untold tale that could steal the show. Picture this: the period between Captain America: Civil War and Avengers: Infinity War, when Steve Rogers was in Nomad mode. Forget cosmic adventures and Infinity Stones, we're talking about a down-to-earth exploration of Steve Rogers' character, giving Chris Evans a chance to flex his acting muscles in a subtler MCU narrative. In the comics, Rogers only wore the Nomad hat for a brief stint, 4 issues to be precise, before donning the Captain America suit again. However, in the MCU, Rogers lived the fugitive life for a solid 2 years. Sure, we got a taste of his Nomad days in the Avengers Infinity War Prelude comics, where he, Romanoff, and Wilson took down a terrorist group smuggling Chitauri weapons. But let's be real, that probably just scratched the surface of Steve Rogers' Nomad adventures. The potential for some serious MCU intrigue lies in those missing chapters. Guess what? Marvel Studios has already dipped its toes into the whole retrospective hero story with Black Widow in 2021. Even though we already knew Black Widow's fate, Scarlett Johansson made a triumphant return to the MCU for one last hurrah, exploring the 2-year gap between Captain America Civil War and Avengers Infinity War. The Phase 4 project served as a deep dive into Romanoff's character, unearthing crucial bits of her past. So, taking a page from that playbook, why not give Steve Rogers the same treatment? Sure, Black Widow might not have skyrocketed to the mega success Marvel Studios is used to, but it paved the way for a new approach to storytelling in the MCU. With plenty of untold stories for every big-name hero, there's no reason Marvel can't dish out more retrospective adventures to fill in those gaps. A Nomad project, shining the spotlight on Steve Rogers before his Avengers Infinity War comeback, could be just the grounded, gritty, and realistic tale to lure Chris Evans back into the MCU fold. After all, Captain America's solo MCU gigs always had that touch of realism that fans love. Here's the deal. One big worry fans have about Chris Evans reprising his role as Captain America is that it might overshadow the new Cap in town, Sam Wilson. After Avengers Endgame, Steve Rogers passed the shield and the Captain America title to Sam. We all watched Sam's journey from Falcon to Captain America in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and it was an emotional ride. His acceptance of the mantle carried a ton of weight, and we can't let that be overshadowed. Now Sam's got some growing to do as the MCU's Captain America, set to strut his stuff in Phase 5's Captain America New World Order. But if Steve Rogers were to swoop back in as Captain America in the present, it could throw a wrench into Sam's development. So here's a thought. Instead of bringing Chris Evans back as Cap right now, why not dive into a Nomad project? It gives us a touching and intense Steve Rogers story without messing with his legacy as Captain America. This way, Sam Wilson can fully embrace the role without any shadows looming over him. Now, Nomad can exist without Steve Rogers or Chris Evans, as we mentioned earlier. There are other characters who have taken on the role of Nomad. One of them is Edward Furble, who appeared in Captain America number 261 in September 1981. He was a short-lived character, given the Nomad costume and gear by the Red Skull to discredit Captain America. Furble is killed by the Ameridroid in Captain America number 263. Jack Monroe is another well-known Nomad. He was originally the third Bucky and first appeared in Captain America number 153 in September 1972. During the Captain America No More storyline, Monroe offered the Nomad identity to Steve Rogers when he had to abandon his Captain America persona, but Rogers declined and took on the new identity of the Captain temporarily. Ricky Barnes, introduced in the Heroes Reborn Captain America series, becomes Nomad in the mainstream Marvel universe after the Onslaught Reborn miniseries. In the Nomad Girl Without a World miniseries, she takes on the identity of Nomad. Ian Rogers, the adopted son of Captain America while trapped in Dimension Z, later becomes Nomad. After surviving and adopting a costume and shield similar to Captain America's, Ian defends Dimension Z under the name Nomad. Well, that's it. For now, make sure that you like our video. Please share your views in the comments section with us. Subscribe to the channel to get updated, and do not forget to hit the bell icon to never miss an update. Thanks for watching the video. We'll see you at the next one.